just hit
Yeah, I
record.
mean, November 1st, we got The Descent coming out on 4K Steelbook, which that's pretty noteworthy. We were kind of joking on our little Facebook chat the other day how the director was probably we were probably thinking like 15 years ago that he was going to be the next big thing in horror going forward, and it kind of was like that for a couple of years, and then like now we're like we don't really talk about him much anymore. It's like it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, The Descent is such a great film. You'll never go into caves again without having absolute
No,
nightmares. I
I,
mean,
I saw that in the theater. Did you? You might have been a little too young, or maybe you saw. I don't know.
no, no, that was 2004 or something. I was 19, so
Okay, so yeah, there you go.
uh,
Yeah, yeah. I walked out of the theater and I was kind of like, whoa. That was like the
yeah,
greatest horror movie experience I had had in a theater in a long time.
yeah. It was one of those ones where everything just went cold.
Yeah. And I went backwards. I saw Dog Soldiers after that.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to think Centurion came out after or before?
Centurion was way late. That was like 2009, maybe
Okay, all right.
2010.
So I
And in the
remember
mid in the middle, you've got Doomsday.
Doomsday was great. I saw that in the theaters
Yeah.
also. I was on a real Neil Marshall high, and I remember like Centurion, like that kind of came out very quietly. And I think I like rented that or saw it on pay-per-view, not even knowing it was a Neil Marshall film. And then I found that I'm like, oh, that's the guy who did those other.
Yeah.
And,
I
never
mean, I'm
after that, it was
disappointed. Disappointed his career's kind of hit this because he was making all those films about Scotland. I mean,
yeah,
the Descent's in Scotland, Dog Soldiers is in Scotland, Doomsday's in Scotland, and Centurion's in Scotland.
yeah,
But yeah, those that last decade. I mean, he went to TV for a good while, Game of Thrones and
yeah,
things. He became
yep,
quite a big director. But then he's just been making those films with his wife, like The Lair, that we did a whole episode on back in the days of, you know, reviewing some spurious things because we actually had quite a lot of episodes to fill. But I can't imagine we'll be reviewing something the size of The Lair these days. But yeah,
yeah. What else we got here? December 9th, we've got American Psycho on 4K Digipack.
yeah.
Well, I guess that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, I like American Psycho. I mean, it probably falls into the just over the line of yes, I think that's worth a 4K upgrade. Because a lot of films, I think I really like that film, but do I need a 4K upgrade? Is that the kind of film like Caddyshack? Does that need to be, that the jokes don't get funnier because of the resolution and sound
Right,
quality?
right.
So I don't feel the need to upgrade everything, certainly.
But you have to wonder about The Descent now because a lot of that film is in caves and dark,
Mm,
and it may or may not work to its advantage. I don't know.
yeah, maybe one for reviews. I mean, that's why, you have to use common sense with these things. I mean, Second Sight announced last year the Blair Witch Project Blu-ray only, and people were going, no 4K, no sale, that awful slogan. And you think, what does the Blair Witch Project stand to gain from 4K? It's filmed on a 1990s handheld video camera
Yeah,
that
yeah,
for a couple $100 camera. I mean, nothing could be gained by that.
yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah. I don't know. I guess I'll have to wait and see. What else we got? Kill List. I'm not familiar with Kill List. That's coming out.
Oh, well, fun. That's funny you mentioned Kill List because right beside me is a uh, Kill List t-shirt. Look at that. That was unplanned, boys and girls, but
Look at that.
it's, Kill List is a brilliant British movie that starts out as a crime film where two gangsters are hired to, or two criminals are hired to perform, or two ex-soldiers, I'll get there eventually, to perform some dodgy dealings. And what they encounter is dodgier than even they could imagine. A brilliant film.
Really? Okay, cool. I've never even heard
Yeah.
of it before. So, what year did this come out?
2010, maybe?
I love the cover of it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's wow. Okay, this looks like it could be really interesting.
Yeah, do not read anything about the film. Don't look at pictures because it will be spoilerific.
Okay.
Just jump in. It is directed by the great Ben Wheatley.
And Wheatley. Okay, so that's worth just a blind purchase. It sounds like.
Yes,
Okay, and
yes.
I'm all for that.
For you, yeah. Maybe not for everyone because it is quite, Brit centric,
I don't mind. Yeah.
but yeah, for you, I'd say so.
We've got The House with Laughing Windows finally coming out on HD. That's coming out in 4K on December 2nd. So that's a
Yeah,
like a Giallo adjacent
yeah,
film.
yeah, it's a
Uh,
big one.
Deep Blue Sea, December 2nd. We got Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, December 9th. Um,
I mean, there's the film where, yeah, that does not meet the threshold for. I definitely need Elvira in 4K. As nice as Cassandra's assets may be, don't need the 4K.
I know, I know. I don't remember if we talked about it last episode, but we got The Man Who Could Cheat Death, November 25th. That's,
Yeah, coming from Vinegar Syndrome,
yep.
which bit of a for me because Hammer are going to be releasing that directly themselves. So as much as I want to order it, Hammer are also bringing it out. So it's very much a I'll wait and see what extras are on the Hammer one because I've got all the Hammer editions on their 4K range so far. So
Yeah.
um, I
I mean, I know
mean,
Vinegar
like
Syndrome does usually a great job with special features and things like that, but yeah, it's like you want to kind of keep it consistent. I'm surprised they're both doing that right around the same time. That's just kind of bizarre.
Yeah, I mean it's again, and we've discussed it before about American rights and UK rights being two different things. So Hammer sold the family silver to get income in the 60s. So we've got the situation already on 4K. I mean, a few months ago we were saying, why are there no Hammer Blu-rays?
Yeah,
This time last year, why are there no Hammer 4Ks? Excuse me. But now Kino are doing some.
they are.
Severin are going to be doing some. They've not announced yet, but they're going to be doing Horror Frankenstein is one of their first ones, which David Gregory announced ahead of Severin. And we've already got Vinegar Syndrome doing them. So anyone thinking, oh, maybe there's going to be more deals made and we'll finally get things like Dracula box sets, not a chance. If anything, there's going to be more companies and more different releases and less box sets.
Yeah, that's definite. Yeah, definite. We got Argento Sleepless coming out on 4K November 25th. You got Depraved coming out November 25th. November 25th seems like a big release day. We got Ruby coming out.
Yeah.
Um, Anaconda's coming out December 9th. We got Edward Scissorhands October 28th, the end of this month. We've got a bunch of the Abbott and Costello kind of horror comedies coming out.
Now
So,
there's a funny one. Pardon the pun, talking about Abbott and Costello. Because Abbott and Costello, they literally gave us them free on Blu-ray about 10 times, didn't they? Because every time we touched a Dracula collection, you'd get another copy of Abbott and Costello, and every time you bought a Frankenstein, you'd get another copy of it because of the way they did we're giving you every appearance of the monster kind of thing. So we
yeah,
all ended up with all these Abbott and Costello movies without ever actually setting out to buy one.
yeah.
It's quite strange. So there's that kind of weird thing in my head that says, well, these films are almost worthless because we got them free, you know? And now they're individually on 4K. It's kind of, that's just the way my
Yeah, I mean,
I
I love
say.
these movies, but like for example, I watched Hold That Ghost and Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein on Blu-ray because I have the Abbott and Costello Universal Blu-ray set,
Yeah.
and I have the Universal Horror Monster Blu-ray set with all the films, including all the horror, all of the monster ones from Abbott and Costello. And I got to tell you, the Blu-rays of these films look amazing, and I don't know if I really need to go out and get these on 4K.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, obviously it's subjective, but and to me, Abbott and Costello for me just aren't the best, compared to. I mean, I adore going back to that early era of comedy, that early sound era. It's the Marx Brothers for me every day of the week. I don't find them as funny even as the best of the Stooges. I
Mhm.
certainly don't find them as funny as Laurel and Hardy. But at their best, Abbott and Costello have got some films that I really like, so maybe it
I mean,
is
I
better
grew
for me
up with
that I
them,
can.
so to me, I love them, but it's
I didn't realize you were that old. Did you go to school with them? Or
no, grew up
oh
with them.
yeah, oh right.
No, I'm not quite that old, Davey. I'm
100,
old, but I'm not quite that old.
120 years old this month.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. But yeah, so I mean, I don't know. Do you have any others too that have just more recent mentions? I think there's
No, I
so
mean
many.
there's just yeah. I mean a metric flood ton. I mean what? maybe just to before we go into a kind of topic, what do you have a kind of threshold for when to 4K and when not to 4K? Do you always take it case by case, or
Yeah,
you
I
know,
don't I
or
don't automatically do it for every film. It has to be a movie. Like if it's something that I really want that I don't have on a Blu-ray format, I'll just go right to the 4K. If I already have the Blu-ray, if it's a film I really, really love and the release is very notable with lots of cool extras, good box packaging, blah, 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 I may do the upgrade, but I'm not doing everything across the board. It's got to be films that are real, the extra special ones for me, that, you know, it will make sense to do the 4K upgrade because of certain characteristics of the film that may be a perfect fit for the 4K upgrade, with the medium, right? So they have to be visually really appealing films. Like for instance, so I saw like what is it? Awakenings is coming out on 4K, right? It's not a horror film, but it's a film I like a lot. Do I need that on 4K? I don't think so. I have it on Blu-ray. I don't think I really need a 4K of that.
so,
Stuff like that. It's like, like comedies or, drama films, whatever, horror, sci-fi, different story, certain action films, different
yeah.
story. But I got to really love the film, right? To make that.
I find it more on comedy that I just don't feel like I want to take the leap.
Yeah. Yeah.
My friend John was posting, "Oh, I finally got National Lampoon's Vacation on 4K," and I thought, hmm,
Yeah. I
I've
would never do that.
I mean, for a multitude of reasons, because Chevy Chase makes me want to throw my television out the window unless it's Community, but and even they hated him by the end. But yeah, I mean, that's just not the kind of film where I feel the need to, I mean, he wants Police Academy. When are we getting the 4Ks of the Police Academy series? What?
Okay.
What? Apart from Police Academy 7, because Christopher Lee's in that. Mission to Moscow. So it's a very important installment, a very important film in his career,
Of
Mission to
course.
Moscow.
Of course.
But yeah, generally speaking, because when we did our 4K video, whenever Craig got his 4K collection started, and Craig had never really made the jump to Blu-ray, I think, if I remember correctly.
Correct, correct. So for
Um,
someone like him getting everything on 4K that you want, why not? I would do the same.
yeah,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
and for him, he's seen light years jump in quality for some films,
Yes.
whereas for us, we're seeing films that we've got on Blu-ray in a lot of cases that already had 4K restorations, albeit on Blu-ray discs, so 1080p discs, but they still were 4K restorations. So for us, it's kind of like well, it looks better, but
Yeah,
does it
not
look,
that, not that much to
does it look
justify the extra cost, right? I mean,
yeah, exactly. And in a lot of cases, well, I don't want to get rid of that booklet, or that's got a commentary by someone that I like that's not carried over, so I'm not going to get rid of it. And it becomes a very expensive project all of a sudden. And yeah, I don't know. It just feels like 4K has never quite caught the imagination the same way that uh, certainly not that Blu-ray did, but definitely not that DVD did. I think DVD is the last time physical media and the public were let in sync.
yeah,
I don't think the public were there for Blu-ray really massively. The best thing that happened to Blu-ray was Sony PlayStations having them built in, because all of a sudden every teenage boy in the world had a Blu-ray player. Whereas now you can buy a PlayStation 5 and you don't even need a disc, it's all digital.
yeah,
So,
yeah. I mean, there are
yeah,
still people that, I mean, I see it all the time. We'll get questions on videos we do on the show, and someone will be like, "Oh, so what do I need to know about 4K?" Is like, can I watch a 4K disc on my DVD player? Like, there are questions that, like, we're already X amount of years into the whole 4K thing, but so many people haven't even moved on from DVD yet and
yeah,
don't really have an interest. But yet, in saying that, there's so many films coming out on 4K. It's just like
yeah,
the influx is never ending. So.
yeah. So,
Now, in saying all that, these three films we're talking about today, if and when they do come out on 4K, it's an auto buy for me.
yes, because we're talking about films that definitely were made with visual spectacle in mind, and that have amazing scores. So you'd want to hear them in the best quality. That's important as well, of course. We're talking about this edition of the Monsters Den.
Yes, welcome.
Um,
Thanks for joining, everybody. David Gallagher and myself in the house today. We may or may not be joined by Dan Brown. The other members could not make it tonight, but yeah, we're talking about the Sinbad films, specifically the ones featuring the special effects, stop motion special effects from the great Ray Harryhausen, and we've already done a whole episode on Ray a number of years ago where we talked about all of the Ray Harryhausen films, but we decided to today just talk about the Sinbad movies, and there are three of them. I'm really surprised there wasn't more, considering how many years we had. Because I mean, Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, which well, it's right.
1958.
1958, right? And then we had to wait
Yeah.
till 1973 for the Golden Voyage. And then we got Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger just 4 years after that in 1977. That's really it. In between, though, there's lots of really cool, even before. I mean, so just to go back a little bit, he worked on, we'll give it a little timeline here. And if you haven't watched our Ray Harryhausen show from a number of years ago, please go check it out. But just to give you a little timeline here, the first film that Ray worked on was alongside Willis O'Brien in 1949. That was Mighty Joe Young. But then the first film he did on his own, the special effects for, was The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms in 1953. Then he was pretty busy here. So we had It Came from Beneath the Sea, of course, with the giant octopus attacking
Yep.
San Francisco. The octopus with only, what,
Six tentacles,
six
yeah.
tentacles, right? Because they couldn't afford to do the other
Yep.
two, right? Which is crazy when you think about it. Earth versus Flying Saucers was 1956. He did a little stuff on the Animal World, which is like a documentary. There's a little bit in that. But then we had 20 Million Miles to Earth, 1957, with the Emir. Great film. Then you got Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, and that was the first film that he worked on in, what was it called? Cinerama, something, or
Dynavision.
Dinarama, right?
Diner.
Yeah. And at the time, for 1958, pretty amazing looking film, right? Because, considering where, you look at the films he did before then, which were all in black and white. We had The Three Worlds of Gulliver in 1960, Mysterious Island 1961, Jason and the Argonauts in 1963, which is probably the closest out of all these other films to another Sinbad movie. I almost tried to convince David to have us include that in this discussion because it sort of fits thematically, but it's not Jason. I mean, it's not Sinbad, so we haven't included it. First Men on the Moon, 1964, 1 million years BC, 1966. Speaking of Hammer, that was the Hammer film, going back to the dinosaur age. Again, kind of a weird film because you got all these like human characters and the dinosaurs in the same time period when we all know that really wasn't the case, right? But great film nonetheless. The Valley of Gwangi, 1979. The Golden Voyage of Sinbad, 73. Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger, 77. And then Clash of the Titans would be his last film in 1981. So yeah, but we're gonna talk about these three Sinbad films. I guess we'll start with the Seventh Voyage of Sinbad. I don't know about you, Davey, but this was probably, I'm trying to remember because I saw this very, very early on in my life when I was a little kid. I'm thinking this was the first Harryhausen film. Well, maybe Mighty Joe Young was the first, but specifically where Harryhausen is completely at the helm, I think this is the first film I ever saw. I remember seeing this on TV, and then in the early 70s, they re-released this in the theaters. And I remember my great uncle taking my brother and I to go to the local picture house, the local movie theater, to see this on the big screen. And I was absolutely thrilled. And I was probably like maybe 7 or 8 years old. So this was probably like 73 or 74, something like that. And I remember seeing this on the big screen was like, and I had already seen it on TV, but seeing it on the big screen was absolutely like a thrill of a lifetime for a kid that age, who was into dinosaurs and monsters and all that sort of thing. What was your first memories of this film?
I only watched it for the first time. No, that would be horrendous.
Last week.
Yeah, this afternoon for this video. No, yeah, pretty similar case over here where they are not so much now because you know what television programming is like these days. They think television and film were invented in 1998, but until maybe 20 years ago, you'd see these on rainy bank holiday
Oh
afternoons and
yeah.
Sunday afternoons and any random one of them. So there's images in my head that could be from this, could be from any number of films, because if you say the one where he fights the skeleton, well, that doesn't even narrow it down, does it? Because it kind of perfected that along the way. I mean, I genuinely love the Harryhausen approach, where the big difference, and it's explained by him in this wonderful Blu-ray box set from Indicator of the Sinbad movies.
Oh, look at that. Wow.
Yeah, which all individual releases, and the booklet, and it's really a book. It's a big fat old thing. He explains what uh, Dino thing me is, where Willis O'Brien had a technique, and Harryhausen realized it's not the way, but who was he to tell the guy that made King Kong? Where Willis, or Obi as he called him, says that Obi-Wan Kenobi, but genuinely did call him Obi, short for Brian, obviously, of panes of glass, and you shoot through the panes of glass, and you can use optical illusions, blah blah blah. And the more glass they added up, the more effects you could add it, blah 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 blah. And Harryhausen's the first one that says, no, we need to do this with rear projection. We need to do it with more of that. And then as that starts to get more refined, he realizes it looks too fake. So how do you bring it back to reality? Rear projection, but then you have multiple layers of rear projection. So two layers of it, maybe in different stages of the screen, and also have some real set in front and surrounding the actual screen itself where they're projecting onto. So very sophisticated way for the time of even contemplating how to make the actual picture appear on set live for the actors to react to. And then a nightmare to put together
Oh,
in
yeah.
post-production, an absolute nightmare and that's before you even think about the nightmare of the actual physical props themselves that Harryhausen had to do. So not only does he devise those completely himself with some amazing sketches,
Yeah.
this whole book's of them so remarkable. But he devises the new way to shoot them as well. So he's someone who doesn't just, he's not just a guy who did special effects. He's a guy who, although that's how he's credited on most of the films, he did actually come up with the actual way to shoot them as well. And as the films go on, he also really starts to have a lot more say over things like casting and things like the writing process. Because all of a sudden he becomes, I think the film about him, the documentary about him is even called the special effects titan. He becomes kind of the this main selling point of the films, where people are going for a Harryhausen film. They're not going for just an adventure movie. Specific, I don't just want an Italian adventure movie or something. I
Well, the
want
creatures and the
a Harry.
creations, those are the stars of the film, you know?
Yeah,
I mean, in
and
every
and
instance. And it's,
and I don't know how if you can see this or not, but I'm gonna look at some of the art that's from him himself.
oh yeah, and it's what's really cool about that is for those of you who are familiar with those films, how like the actual final creation those drawings look, right? I mean, it's
Yeah,
identical.
yeah, it's almost like he set himself the challenge of if I can draw it, there must be a way to get it on screen. And now that seems like, well, you can do anything with effects, but he's doing this in the 50s for this first one. But even apart from that, I think the first one is a perfect adventure film. We kind of, as we said before we start recording, we're going to do this just in a kind of chatty format rather than three, two, one. But if we were ranking them in the more traditional format, this probably is my favorite, the
Oh
first
yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think Kerwin Matthews is the most fun Sinbad, for example.
Well,
Um,
he's awesome. Yeah, he's really good.
yeah, there's a reason why he goes on to have a career pretty much playing this kind of role for a little while, right into the 60s with Jack the Giant Killer and
Yes.
things like that. He's great. The main villain, Sakura, is
He's awesome.
fantastic in it.
He's
Yeah,
awesome.
he's
He's awesome.
Torrin Thatcher, and he also became the villain in Jack the Giant Slayer, didn't he?
That's right. Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
so that was very much a reunion for this. But this film is definitely my favorite, and I think it stayed my favorite for a couple of reasons. Which one of them is it's got my favorite villain or monster, which is
Oh, the Cyclops is amazing. Yeah, he's my favorite too. Yeah.
I mean, and this line of toys that came out were so
I have one.
good.
I think I pulled mine out. We did the toys episode. That's why I didn't bother with them this time.
Yeah, I mean,
Those are
I mean,
amazing. Yeah.
what they even bothered to articulate the. It's almost like they said to themselves, "How would Ray do it?" Or we can't just have these be statues. Ray would want them to be more dynamic than that. We need the hoof to go around
Yep.
360. Remarkable, remarkable creation, and it gives you a great monster for the film. So you'd get a couple of levels where here's your monster, but the antagonist, the bad guy, is Sakura, is the actual wizard. But on top of that, you will get a monster or five that are incredibly memorable as well. So you get these as the kind of mainstays of the film, and then you get that iconic scene, which again is overshadowed by Jason and the Argonauts, but that iconic scene of Sakura bringing the skeleton to life, which I think to this day looks amazing.
Yes.
Just one of the reasons I think it's better to just shoot the shit over something like this is I don't like dissect. I mean, I could, but I wouldn't want to dissect these films the way we do a lot of other ones because whenever I watch these films, I'm 10 years old. I don't want to think about them in terms of themes of the movie and ideas. I'm always swept up in the adventure. Well,
It's just
the
about
minute,
entertainment, right? Yeah.
yeah, the Bernard Herrmann score comes in, dun 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 dun. I'm like, oh yeah, set sail, here we go.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, and there's so many memorable scenes. Like, you got the genies in this film, right? And then he's kind of goofy, but you know what? He's so much a part of the whole film. You talk about the Cyclops. To me, there are two amazing scenes of Harryhausen's special effects wizardry in this film. When you have the Cyclops and the dragon battling it out is
Mhm.
awesome. And the skeleton scene, the battle with the skeleton, is amazing. There are lots of other great scenes in this film, but to me, those two are just like, wow, so good. And it kind of set a precedent, really, in a lot of his films that feature creatures. Because 20 Million Miles to Earth has it as well, where you have the creature battles in each film has like a little bit. And in the Sinbad movies going forward, you would have these creature fights, which really kind of makes sense. And you always wait for it, right? And in most cases, they don't disappoint. Is that set, that indicator set, is that just strict Blu-ray or is that like a 4K
Yeah,
scan?
these are all Blu-ray,
Okay.
but check if they're 4K scans, so we know the quality. 2K restorations, it
2K
says.
restorations. Okay. All
So
right. I'm wondering if these are coming out of 4K at some point because that's a nice looking set.
yeah, I mean it's
Not that, I mean, I have them all on here on this set here, which has got a whole
yeah,
bunch of other Harryhausen films, but
yeah,
it's a pretty sexy
indicated
looking set.
in a whole bunch of Harryhausen box sets, and yeah, this was their first for a reason, because Sinbad, um, and it's got so many extras on it as is their want, and
Oh, I can
Tom,
imagine.
you know, yeah, it's just sublime, and I saw this on the big screen, and I saw it with a friend of mine called Ray Harryhausen, in 2001. And here's my signed DVD from
Wow.
the man himself. So it might sound almost fantastical to people in America, but it's a rare case of if you lived in the UK, 80s, 90s, 2000s, you would be able to meet Ray Harryhausen reasonably easily if you kept your ears to the ground, because he lived in the UK since I think the 60s, and he retired relatively young,
He did, yeah.
just after Clash of the Titans. And in his retirement, he would sporadically tour the country, showing films, bringing out his briefcase with a lot of the creatures, which were never allowed anywhere near. No,
Right.
nowhere near. You could kind of view them from a distance. So I got to attend two Q&As with Ray, and yeah, he signed my DVD, which lovely. And you weren't even allowed to shake his hand.
No? Wow.
No, which I guess was a kind of like, these hands are too valuable. These are the hands that shaped all these great things. And it's like, well, he's not going to do another movie, so
What does it matter, right? Yeah.
I'm back, kids, at the age of 90. But yeah, so that's why I've kept this old ancient
I used
DVD.
to have that DVD. I had all of them. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, and for folks who maybe don't really grasp the whole concept of what stop motion photography is all about, so he created these figures, right? These kind of like statue type of thing of also they're using all sorts of materials to do so.
yeah,
When you're filming a scene with these creatures, I mean, David can just show you. So basically, you just got to move it a tiny bit. You got to photograph it, and then you got to go back and you got to move it the next.
yeah.
So if the scene involves the Cyclops moving its arm up like this, think of how long it takes to shoot that 2 second scene because you gotta take a shot, move it, take a shot, move
Yep.
it, take a shot, move it. So imagine a battle between two creatures. You got the two models. That's you're talking weeks, if not months, to shoot like a little 5 minute battle scene. So
And
think about the whole movie that's containing all
he
these creatures.
he
Silly.
could easily have taken the easy way out and had it where, okay, well, we'll do that, but we'll only do it for maybe a scene or two. And then, we've already got a main villain. We've got the wizard, so we've already got that covered. We don't need to have all these monsters. But no, he adds in, the two-headed bird creature and the chick from it and whatnot. He's always looking to think, not every 5 or 10 minutes we need something fantastical to happen,
Yeah. Yeah.
where he gets to stretch his legs. I mean, the auteur theory, the directors are the ones in charge of their films and they're responsible for everything, the tone and whatnot. For Harryhausen films, he is the auteur. Not that he did direct them, and it's he and Charles Sheeter who produced them, but it's certainly him that is it's all fallen down from Harryhausen. Everything to do with the film. Everything anybody likes about the film is coming from Ray Harryhausen.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So, and I think so. Before we move on to the second film, I think for me, what sets this movie apart a little bit from the other two, I think this one is a little lighter, more swashbuckler type of high seas adventure. I think there's a little darker tone specifically on Golden Voyage, I think. At least I've always felt that way. Whereas this one, and maybe because it was done in the 50s, maybe because of the way it was shot, and I don't know, I always found this to be a brighter, a little bit more on the fun side. Um, Whereas the next film, I think a little darker, a little more serious in tone. And I think the choice of lead actors could have something to do with that, I think, perhaps.
Maybe because, but I think there's something to be said for the film stock idea that you mentioned there, because I think visually you look at this and it looks just in the quality of the film itself, it looks closer to Thief of Baghdad from 1940,
Right, right. Yeah,
rather than the 70s films with had Kodak color.
yes.
Where it's much clearer and it's more, it's not documentary style, but it's much clearer to look at and much more sharp imagery. So there is that kind of haziness that you get from the film stock in the 40s and 50s, where Technicolor bleeds a little bit, and it gives it that more fantastical feel, which again comes from Thief of Baghdad, which I mean you mentioned, there's Harryhausen films that feel like they should be part of this. Thief of Baghdad almost feels like it should be as well, even though it's got nothing to do with Harryhausen.
Right, right. Yeah.
But it's as a kid, lump them all in as one big thing, but,
So, 1973, so 15 years later, we finally get another Sinbad movie. And of course, we get a totally different cast, different person playing Sinbad, a different adventure. Um, And here we have, and different monsters or creatures, whatever. So here we've got the Kali, the goddess of death. I think I showed that on the when we did our toy episode. We got the centaur. which is probably the closest thing to getting the Cyclops in this film. And the Griffin kind of like plays like the good monster. Those are the two that kind of go at it. We've got the figurehead on the ship, right? Uh,
Mm,
new villains here, new Sinbad. We've got the wonderful Carolyn Monroe in this film, which is always a big bonus. And she of course was gracing her presence in Hammer films and other things right around this time. What was your impressions on this film? I always love this film as well. I mean, I love all three of these a lot, but I think that's probably this one is my second favorite in the series. I think I don't know. I like the third one a lot too, but it's hard to say.
yeah, yeah. I think that's it. Probably does go in reverse order for me in terms of the ones that I yeah, prefer rather than like or dislike because I love them all. John Philip Laws or Sinbad here, and I remember introducing you to his masterpiece, which is Danger Diabolique,
Oh yeah,
where he is he's silent but deadly in that film. He's not as dynamic as Cowan Matthews, but he's got a steeliness about him, which I think photographs quite well, which helps him come off well as Sinbad. Brian Clemens writes this one, who was a writer for Hammer, great television writer in the UK as well. And this is where you start to, we've already seen it in the Harryhausen canon with Argonauts, where somebody must have kind of said, we need to get the acting standard up a little bit or something, because it did seem to tip from the first Sinbad from the late 50s into the 60s. It's almost like there's a massive sea change in terms of the casting, where there does seem to be an onus on we do need to get that acting up a little standard because now you do have really great actors, or at least really memorable actors in some cases. I mean, is Carolyn Monroe a great actress? She doesn't get to prove it here, but she
right.
looks great.
Yeah.
And actually, I think she is great at what she's asked to do in this film. I mean, to me, her great role will always be in Captain Cronus Vampire Hunter, also written by Brian Clemens. But even her little cheeky helicopter pilot chasing Roger Moore in Bond, she's brilliant at putting in a little bit of personality where maybe it's not always on the page.
And I
Yeah,
love her in that great sci-fi film around the same time, and I'm drawing a blank on the name of it too. She did that cheesy kind of sci-fi movie.
I mean, she's still going as well, bless her. I mean, she's on
Yeah.
Talking Pictures TV. She's the horror host over here on Talking Pictures TV, still introducing them all these years later. And I'm biased because look who's over my shoulder, looking down at me as I sit. It's Sir Thomas of Baker, right? I'm biased again. I think he is the best actor in all of these films at what he's asked to do.
He's a
He is
great villain in this.
he's
He
brilliant in
is. And
this.
for the longest time, I never even knew that. I never even made the connection that he was Doctor Who. I was like, and then
Yeah,
finally years later, I was like, oh shit, that's right. That's Doctor Who.
yeah,
That's
because he looks younger there, and that's after this. That's
yeah,
after
exactly.
Sinbad,
Yep.
but he looks older in Sinbad. I mean,
Maybe the
obviously in
facial
some,
hair kind of did it, I guess. I don't know.
and yeah, and obviously in some bits he's supposed to be aged up, isn't he?
Yeah.
But what I think is don't fall. What I think I like about the storytelling in that one is the whole kind of race idea to it, where it's well, we have to get there before they do. And Tom Baker, his villain in it, isn't as bad a bad guy as you'd think for this kind of film. There's not a lot that he actually does wrong. I mean, the whole film starts with excuse me, Mr. Sinbad. That bit of gold, it's actually mine. I know you wouldn't have known that, but could I have it back, please? And Sinbad goes, no, piss off. So, so he's like, okay, I'm an evil wizard, and I'm now going to have to pursue you, I'm afraid. But tally ho.
Yeah.
So Tom Baker throughout is almost like he's playing telling himself, well, my character doesn't think he's evil. He thinks he's the good guy of his own story. So that's the way I'm going to play it. So he's not, twirling a mustache and going, whereas our wizard in the first film very much is, I'm playing a bad guy and I'm
Oh
having
yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Tom Baker is playing it very subtle. I mean, still over the top for what it is, but it's a Sinbad movie, so you can't exactly, give the kind of performance you'd do in an Ingmar Bergman or something. But he plays it to the hilt in this film. He's fantastic. As you mentioned, it does start to introduce more delicate creatures. I mean, Kali, it's almost like they were thinking of the great octopus tobacco and said, yeah. How many arms does Kali have? Let's see if we can do all of them this time.
Yeah.
So Kali's got all these arms that are going at the same time, and it's almost like there was a challenge to one up themselves every time. I'm sure there was, okay, so we've had limbs moving in a certain way before, but it's the way things move so naturally in a Harryhausen film as well, where these creatures, when they're stabbed, they react like a person would do when they're stabbed.
Yes.
They don't just collapse into a heap or anything. They move like someone would move. So I'm sure that Ray maybe had a model or someone who did the right, do this, and then I'll kind of animate around that and towards your motion. A bit like Disney did with Snow White and the likes, using actors and not literally tracing them, but kind of to get an idea of natural movement. Because there's a lot of parts where this just feels a bit more natural in terms of the creatures that are put into it. Not to put any of the ones from 1958 down, but this one does feel a lot more developed. As you'd expect, he's got 15 years more experience. The film industry's moved on 15 years, but it still maintains that great spirit of adventure. So it would be very easy in 73 to add more cynicism, and I mean, it does feel more mature,
Yes.
which again comes from maybe Tom Baker and whatnot, downplaying it and not playing it too over the top. But it doesn't feel cynical and it doesn't feel mean-spirited at any point.
I think your point about the creatures being more developed is very valid because I look at for me, the centaur is one of the great characters that he ever did in any of these films. And I always remember the scene where we first see or we first hear the centaur, right? So they're locked down in the kind of the pit down below, right, with the long tunnel that goes off and they open the gate up, and all of a sudden you hear the kind of like the little slow trot of the horse, right? Because he's got the horse bottom, lower half is the horse, top is a man. And you hear the cluck, 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 cluck of the horse hooves coming down, echoing through the chamber, right? And then all of a sudden when he comes in, and the movement of the human part of the centaur body is awesome. The way the arms are moving and everything else, the kind of motions of the mouth, and then the scene, and then after, of course, he battles with the griffin and beats the griffin.
Mm,
When eventually he then fights Sinbad and his buddy there, and then when they actually kill the centaur, the he's getting stabbed in the back, and he's acting as if a human was getting stabbed in the back exactly as he would act if someone was getting stabbed on their spine or whatever, and it's
mm.
very human like, and it's just amazing how he got every aspect of both the horse and the human, putting them together in that whole scene when the
Yeah.
centaur was on camera. It's just really, really, really well done.
Yeah, it really stands out, especially in that second one and third one where you think, God, they're acting like you'd act when that happens.
Yeah.
Like where the creatures are battling each other, and Tom Baker's wizard just comes out and slashes one in the
That's just
back of the
ridiculous.
leg.
Yep.
Yeah, just to kind of tip the scales one way in his favor. But even that looks, that's obviously them saying, well, if we add in the wizard, we'll get a sense of the scale of these two together. So it gives it that too, and also gives them more challenges in terms of how's it going to look when we've got these two creatures that we need to now mat in, and we've got a human actor as well. So more challenges, more technical. Let's one up ourselves. Let's do it better. We can't expect people to pay for something that's not as good as what which you already charged them for all those years ago. We need to do better.
Yeah.
I think it's something of the old school in Shear, Charles Shear, Andrew Harryhausen, where they had a constant need to better themselves every time, just for their own sake, as well as well, we have to do it for the fans.
Yeah. What's interesting too is that I'm looking, again, I don't want to jump ahead to the third film just yet, but if we look at all the monster battles in all three films, so in the first film, you have the Cyclops and the Dragon initially starting their battle on in that, like, again, what is it, like a cave which
Mhm.
leads into the castle and whatnot, because the dragon of course is chained up, right, and breaks the chain, and they start their battle in there because the dragon's coming out and the Cyclops ventures down into the opening of the cave, which, and then that's their battle starts in there, and it spills out into the light over near where the sea is, right, and that's kind of where it ends. This film, the battle is completely in that underground cave thing, whatever. And then even in the third film, the big monster battle also takes place inside somewhere. So there are less of these monster battles in the outdoors as we probably see in some of his other films, right? Like I'm thinking like Valley of Gwangi and 20,000 Miles to Earth, and even maybe, the Hammer film as well, where everything
Yeah.
is outdoors. Here, they're mainly indoors where these battles are taking place.
Yeah, it's more like First Men on Mars, isn't it?
Yes.
Where
Yes.
it's cave based and whatnot.
Yeah.
It works for what they're going for, obviously with mythology, because well, obviously these creatures were behaving in caves and
Yeah.
beside the mirror of destiny and the pool of vision, and it just sounds great as well. So, and it also gives something that all three of these films have got the chance to have a really cool cave setting where the outside looks like a face. It's obviously something that Harryhausen liked to work on as well, because
Yeah.
you could just have it be a cave. But in all three of these films, it consciously adds the outside of the cave has something of a human look to it, which is interesting to. And one performance I like in this, and again, it's a lovely bit of design as well, is Douglas Wilmer, the great Douglas Wilmer, who plays the Vizier, and he's the kind of the he's almost the good wizard. He's not quite a wizard, but he's the good wizard with the great golden mask, which just looks fantastic. Again, it's not always about the monsters. It's not always about the actors who play Sinbad or anything. It's these small details. He didn't need to have a great golden mask. Everything, not one ticket was sold because of his mask, but it just adds to the whole aesthetic of the journey. So even when he's in a scene and nothing else fantastic was happening, that mask looks so amazing and cool at the same time.
Yeah. It really does. Really does. Yeah. Good film. Really good film. So I guess we'll move on to the final one, Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger from 1977. So here, once again, we have a selection of creations from the great Ray Harryhausen. We've got the baboon, right? Which of course is one of our main characters who gets, cursed with turning into a baboon. You've got the Minotaur, which I always thought was a really cool. They didn't do enough with Minotaur, unfortunately. And, gets to row the boat, and we really only see him outside of the boat till when they first get to the island, and he comes out. But then they do away with him pretty quickly. We've got the giant, the walrus. We've got the hornets. We've got the troglodyte and the guardian of the shrine, which is of course the saber-tooth tiger. So some really cool, and the ghouls also at the beginning of the film. So we got some really good stuff here as well. Again, the big battle in this film is basically the troglodyte going up against the saber-tooth tiger in that almost climactic scene at the end of the film. And it's funny, I think in all of these films, when you do have the battle, one of them always has to die. And usually I always feel bad about the one that dies, and I felt bad about the centaur in the beginning because I always like the centaurs the best. You feel bad for the griffin. Griffin is like the power of good, and the evil is the centaur. Although I think the centaur is the better creation. And then here you got the troglodyte, who you actually get to know a little bit because
Yeah,
he winds up befriending Sinbad and his crew here, who are basically trying to find the cure for the character, the prince, who got turned into a baboon. And then, but you don't really feel bad. You can't really take the saber-tooth tiger as like an evil creature here because he's just a guardian of the shrine,
just a
right?
guardian. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
doing what it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this one, there's a great myth that this flopped because of Star Wars coming out as it did in '77 next to Star Wars. It did not. It made 16 million on a 3 million budget.
Which,
So it made a profit. So
yeah.
films generally need to make twice their budget back to turn a profit. Used to be a bit less than that, so maybe about 1.75 at the time. And big budget films like Superman and whatnot is three times usually is the formula for the amount of marketing they have and whatnot. So the film did make a profit. Really, what people meant, and just lazily assume the box office backs them up, is that filmmaking obviously changed massively with Star Wars. And this appearing alongside it doesn't shine favorably on this for some people, which is nonsense for me because when you think of, you obviously will have seen Star Wars at the time in '77,
Yeah, I
but
saw both of those in the theater. So I saw this and Star Wars in the theater that year. So I
and
was 11.
when people make comparisons, they're comparing it to the Star Wars that we've had since George Lucas has been tinkering with them 500 times. George Lucas had to go back and fix all the matting effects and whatnot. Those original 1977 X-Wings looked crap compared to the way they do now. If you just want to talk about visual quality and, oh, we can see the outlines and blah, blah, blah.
Well, what we know
But
later,
who cares?
back
Yeah,
at the time, I thought Star Wars was amazing. I mean, it's like, oh,
yeah.
God, I've never seen anything like this before. But like you fast forward 10, 15 years and you
Hmm.
look back on that first film, you're like, oh, that doesn't really look all that great.
So, so Lucas goes in with CGI and fixes it and makes all the edges match seamlessly and fixes all the matting problems. These films have still got the original matting on them, so they don't look as Star Wars does. But I don't care. I don't want it to look like Star Wars. I want it to
No,
look
it doesn't
like
need to.
I want it to look like a classic Ray Harryhausen film. And this one certainly does. So, we've just had Doctor Who in there. He's obviously been up the time travel shenanigans in the TARDIS because he's degenerated into Patrick Troughton, who is in this, and he essentially plays the Vizier-like character in this one of the good wizards. Patrick Troughton, again, I'm perfectly willing to admit my bias. I think he's the best thing in this film. He's got a real sense of mischief about him, and he's having a ball. But no, I'm with you on a lot of the creatures. This to me is setting up Clash of the Titans,
Yeah.
where you can really see that. Right, we're going to put in as many different things as we can here. So a creature like Minotaur, who's played by Peter Mayhew, speaking of Star Wars,
Yeah.
Chewie himself, a creature like Minotaur, it'd be so easy to just have him there. But they go to the bother of having that whole scene of his mechanical heart and seeing how that's crafted. And that obviously that showing that mechanical shutter like technology that goes straight into the little in Clash of the Titans.
Yes. Yes.
So and the design of the ship that the baddies ride on is gorgeous. I love the ship design, which has nothing to do with monster design, but it just looks cool. They've got this kind of almost looks like a submarine or something. The way it kind of hovers on the top of the water, just kind of floating along. It's got great design to it. In this case, they decided to go for a female villain. It works well here. Margaret Whiting is Zenobia, and she's the evil queen and the bad wizard witch in this case, maybe, or Wiccan or something. Brilliant. She's chewing all the scenery. So
It's great.
Tom Baker was understated. She's just going for it. She doesn't give a fuck. She's just absolutely going for it. And we get the wonderful Jane Seymour
Yeah.
as Farah in this one. She's not got as much to do in terms of her performance. Another Bond girl as well, but she's not got as much to do in terms of what she's asked. She doesn't get to shrink down, like the princess in the first film, and a lot of it is just whimpering for her brother or pining over Sinbad. But she gets enough, and again manages to inject enough into the character that I'm happy. Patrick Wayne is a slight downturn for me. I don't think he's a great Sinbad. He's good, but he's got that kind of low rent Charlton Heston thing going on for him.
I think he
You know,
had the look, and that's what they were going for. He
yeah,
doesn't he doesn't really come with a lot of substance as far as acting ability goes. I don't think he's awful, but he's definitely out of the three, he's the worst for sure.
yeah, yeah. It's just, he's not got his father's charisma, John Wayne's charisma, where John Wayne wasn't always the best actor, but he always had something about him. But yes, he's not got it, unfortunately. But yeah, lovely supporting cast, including Nadeem Sawala as Hassan. And Kirk Christian gets to be the son of the witch in it,
Yes.
um,
He's
and
very good. He's very good.
he's fun, and he was also very fun in the previous film as the lazy son he's the only one that's really got a character arc in these films. The lazy son who kind of becomes a hero by the end of the story,
Right.
and so I really like him. The Prince Kasim turning into baboon, that's obviously one of the most remarkable things is just how much screen time they actually get out of that. And you think,
Yeah.
as you said, the amount of time that goes into just, one frame of film, 24 frames per second.
He's in every scene pretty much.
Yeah, that monkey is kicking about somewhere,
Yeah.
and it all had to be shot, it all had to be moved. They do not take any shortcuts. If this was a film by just about any other filmmaker, there'd be a way to use shortcuts. They would have short actors, midgets and whatnot in
In
the
a costume.
background in a costume.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
keep them in the shadows and we'll just do that for a couple of scenes, No, there's always something in it. And you get, some of the classic staples. I mean, if you watch these back to back, you'll obviously start to notice the trends that, they obviously thought this is what needs to be in a Sinbad film.
Yeah.
So you do get someone shrunken down to the size of, a thumb. So in this case, it's the baddie rather than the princess. You get the race to the end. In this case, it's a rather remarkable set where that end where they get to the eye of the tiger, as it were, just before they get there, and they knock down the facade of it to open the door, and you see the pyramid through the hole. It looks like the greatest metal album cover you've ever seen in your life. It is sublime, absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
So again, it's just full of these lovely little bits of design. It's not just about the monsters. The monsters are amazing, but it's not just about the monsters. The sets are amazing. The costumes are amazing.
Yeah. That's good. These are remarkable achievements, these films. And like we said, when I listed off all the other movies that are in the Harryhausen filmography, I mean, there are other amazing creatures in a lot of these other films, and I think the attention to detail in all of them, and even like if you look at Clash of the Titans, which came what 4 years later,
Yeah.
there's still a lot of great attention to detail in those films too, and that's a pretty grandiose story as well, and you get a lot of the same feels in all these films, which is really really great. They're fantastic. They're action films. There's these they're just these amazing adventures filled with, swords and ships and creatures and princesses and all sorts of fun stuff. And it just, as Davey mentioned at the beginning, you watch these movies and you're not watching them in our current state. It's like we're watching them as like 8 and 12-year-old kids all over again. And that's,
Yeah.
well, maybe you had to grow up with these films, but I think any person of any age can probably watch these and be entertained by them. I think that's the important thing.
Yeah. And you mentioned we obviously only got the three, but why didn't we get more? You ever heard of Sinbad Goes to Mars? There's a
No.
whole section in this booklet about it.
Wow.
So obviously after Star Wars, everybody starts to go, "What the hell was that? We need some of that money." So what have we got that's sci-fi? Quick, 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 quick. And they are quickly asked by Columbia, "Can you do Sinbad on Mars?" And they say, "Sure." How much you paying? So Harryhausen and the team start working on it, and various people have got various answers as to why it didn't happen. Some say that Charles Shee, the co-producer of all these films, had a falling out with Columbia, and they pulled the funding. Harryhausen himself said that it was a case of they just didn't know how to make it feasible for Sinbad to be on Mars. I don't know. When you're dealing with fantasy and sci-fi, there's always a way around that. So I'm not too sure about that. Maybe not.
Honestly, I have a better thing that they could have done. Screw Sinbad on Mars. How about just make a John Carter Warlord of Mars film?
Yeah, I mean, I guess at the time you'd be dealing with rights. John Carter
Right.
probably was still under copyright at the time.
I would think
I
so.
know, I know it's now out of copyright, but and then you've also got the problem that the actual John Carter movie had in 2010 or whenever that was, where everything in the John Carter books has been stolen by George Lucas and his friends already. What the hell's left for us to put in our film? And even these films have got something of the John Carter feel of them. Um,
True.
but yeah, I mean, roughly the idea would have been that Sinbad finds a place in the Middle East that turns out is being used as a portal by aliens and ends up on Mars and fights invaders. So just a kind of vague, very vague idea of how to do a sci-fi. I think it would have been too schlocky for Harryhausen and Co. I think that could have worked as an idea for a B movie, but not for people with these kind of standards. I just can't see Harryhausen's heart being in it. He likes his proper Greek myths. Even before he hit it big, there's that great DVD compilation of his shorts where he's doing things like Aesop's Fables and Bible tales and whatnot. So he likes old things and old stories. Not that Sinbad's too old. It's not as old as people think. It's not one of the original 1001 Arabian Nights. It's only been added to that canon in the last couple of hundred years, but that's long enough. But yeah, I think Harryhausen's got something about him where, yeah, he likes the ancient, he likes that. Oh, and I can't imagine. And then Sinbad goes through the teleporter and is on Mars. Could ever be in a script with Ray Harryhausen's name attached to it.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense. Yeah.
Yeah. But again, illustrated in the book, it's all there. Um, you know, Interesting idea, but it really just shows how much Star Wars came along and changed the game, where, even this kind of film was completely decimated by it. Now, by the time of Clash of the Titans, there was enough time had gone past where people were a bit nostalgic for a different type of adventure, especially because the world had then been saturated by sci-fi movies chasing Star Wars, so people wanted to go back the other way again. So kind of, as always, trends come and go. The old becomes new again. Blah blah blah. But yeah, it's fascinating that Columbia themselves said to Harryhausen and Co. Too old-fashioned, give us a Star Wars version of Sinbad, and then a few years later he does something that's, impossibly old with Clash of the Titans.
Clash of the Titans made 70 million on a
Yeah,
budget of nine,
huge.
right? That
Yeah.
did very, very well.
And
That's
it's we're obviously it's not part of this canon, but again, it feels like it could be. It feels like the culmination of this, where it takes these myths and it adds in all these different creatures and all these different creations and all these sets and all these costumes. And it's not just got actors in them, it's got these great Shakespearean actors like Laurence Olivier, for goodness sake, all of a sudden in the Harryhausen movie.
yeah,
When he starts in the 50s doing black and white monster movies, he's directing Laurence Olivier until on set, which bizarre, the journey. And having done that, never selling out. There's no Harryhausen film which feels like this is one for the studio, and then I'll get one for me the next time. They all work as Harryhausen films. It's remarkable. What a run.
yeah. And it's funny, if we didn't get we look at like that first major film that he did, which predates Godzilla, right?
Mhm.
And you got to wonder how influential that creation of his, what was the name of that dinosaur? What they call it? There was a name for the dinosaur in that film. Yeah, I can't think of the name of it. Anyway, I wonder how much of an influence on Toho and their creation of Godzilla that was. Um, yeah, it's interesting the whole Star Wars thing. I was just looking up the theatrical poster for Clash of the Titans, which was done by the brothers Hildebrand, who also did the
Mm,
theatrical poster for Star Wars. And I remember I was reading the whole thing about that in the 4K set for the Deadly Spawn. They actually filmed that in one of the brothers Hildebrand's houses, which is crazy how all this stuff is intertwined with each
yeah.
other. It's crazy.
Yeah, and in the 80s there was obviously a billion and one fantasy movies that then came out, which were inspired by Ray Harryhausen in turn, and
Yep.
some of them weren't perhaps the best films, and they were doing what we just mentioned with Star Wars, and they were just chasing the Clash of the Titans money. So
Yep.
all of a sudden, Ray Harryhausen's box office with the last film he ever worked on,
Yep.
a remarkable turn of events for the last film. But yeah, it's a great trilogy that I don't think many people think of as a trilogy, oddly, even though it's a Sinbad trilogy, because they tend to think of the wider canon kind of as one big thing, or they think of this with Clash of the Titans and Jason and the Argonauts as a little bundle.
But that makes a lot of sense. I would think if
Hmm.
I was going to lump any of the films together, those five I would definitely put together. They kind of sit outside everything else because you got a couple of the other that are strict sci-fi films.
Hmm.
Actually, a good chunk of the other ones are just straight sci-fi films. It came from beneath the sea. Is that really a sci-fi? I guess that sort of is. That's kind of,
Yeah.
whatever. But 20 million miles to Earth and Earth versus the Flying Saucers and all those are all sci-fi films for sure.
Yeah, but even then, we're more generally talking about Harryhausen now, but why not? Um, the American style of that first few films is completely different to the British style of First Men of the Moon,
Yeah.
where there's some very eccentric sets in that, and the actual rocket itself and whatnot. Can you imagine them being in some of the early films from the 50s? It would just be
Yeah.
like, what?
Yeah.
It wouldn't have worked at all. So even the sci-fi films are completely different from each other in some regards. Yeah, it's a wonderful canon of films, and what a wonderful thing to be able to study is Ray Harryhausen techniques and how he did it, and the prescience to be able to see that there was this way of doing it, and then it all comes together and works. And yeah, remarkable stuff.
Oh, by the way, the Rhedosaurus was the creature from the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. And again, it's just so remarkable to think if you really go and watch that film, it's basically Godzilla
Yeah,
before Godzilla. The
yeah.
whole thing about, atomic testing, and that's how the creature comes to life and all. So it's just, yeah.
Yeah, it's such a fascinating thing because, obviously Godzilla becomes famous because it's the Japanese response to the bomb.
Yep.
But America has its own response to the bomb, even though they're on the other side of dropping it. So, it's two sides of the same coin. It's quite interesting to see how the two countries did it, and both came to kind of similar conclusions that there's got to be a better way than this, than destroying everything.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's Harryhausen leading that charge in the 50s,
Yep.
so.
Yeah. Great stuff. So thanks for watching, everybody, on this another. I could sit and talk about Ray Harryhausen films all day long, and it seems like it's always fun to resurrect these on the show because I think a bunch of us really really love these as well. And by the way, I believe Craig sent me a note and was saying that his favorite of the three is the second film. And let me get back to his complete note here to me. Where is it? Here we go. No, I don't know where it is now. Anyway, but yeah, his favorite was the second film out of all of them. But
I don't think there's a wrong answer.
no,
And
there absolutely is not.
no,
That's
and we always say rank him as you see him or something like that, but generally speaking, there's a perceived right and wrong. If you're ranking the Hammer Draculas and you think that Dracula AD 72 is the absolute best thing since sliced bread, not that many people are going to agree with that. But in this case, it's choose which chocolate ice cream you prefer. They're all fantastic.
yeah.
Yeah, brilliant stuff.
Yeah, they're all
Absolutely.
great. They're all great. Like I said, and the the reasons why I love the first film are very personal, and it's like it's the first one I saw, and again, you wind up like, well, which lead actors do you like more? Which creatures do you feel more of a connection with? It's little stuff like that, but all three are really, really great, and I enjoy them all immensely. So yeah, so for folks watching, if you are familiar with these three Sinbad films, let us know what you love about them, and what your favorites out of the three, and just any general thoughts about Ray Harryhausen and his wonderful, magical creations that he did throughout his career. Which I think some of those are still sitting somewhere in a museum, right? Aren't some of those still around? Some of the actual.
Yeah, again, he kept such good care of them that a lot of them are still on the occasional UK tour. I know that. I have been to America, but just because he lived in the UK, it was so much easier to see them at various points. And being up close and actually seeing the skeletons and whatnot, it's just a remarkable experience. It's almost a religious experience for a film fan
Oh, for
just to see
sure.
them
Yeah.
up close. It's just
Yeah.
stunning. So yeah, what a guy! And yeah, just before we go, I mean, Earth versus the Flying Saucers is a film we could have talked about next month because next month we're doing Alien Invasions,
That's
isn't it?
true. Yes. So we may be talking more about that once again. So yeah. Yeah.
But probably not because that'd be a waste of a pick just to go. And another thing about Ray Harryhausen, it was just be too much.
Be 20 million miles to Earth. That can be
Yeah,
as well, right? Yeah,
yeah.
sure. Yeah.
I was going to say First Man in the Moon, but that's the opposite. That's a moon invasion, really. We're
Right.
the
Yes.
invaders. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So,
So, and for those of you, so I was just while Davey was showing it before, I was looking up that indicator set. I don't know if that is currently out of print.
yeah,
It probably is, right? But
yeah.
I believe you can still get this. There have been various iterations of this particular set here in the States, and I'm pretty sure this was a US release, but there are a bunch of different Harryhausen compilations that include. This one has here Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger, Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, Three Worlds of Gulliver, Golden Voyage of Sinbad, Jason and the Argonauts, Earth versus the Flying Saucers, and It Came from Beneath the Sea. So this one's pretty stock, but it doesn't have all of them. And I have another set which has the ones that are not in this. So
Yeah. So
again, a lot of different production companies and
yeah,
so
Warner's have got quite a few of them, for example, and Hammer have, blah blah blah. But yeah, just a great set to have, just to have the films. The indicator ones are out of print because the box set was limited, but the films themselves are on standalone discs and they are region free for anybody who's region locked. So
yeah,
if you have a particular favorite, then get the indicator version because there's all sorts of extras on them. The only one they didn't get to do was a new version of Clash of the Titans, because Warner's wouldn't let them do it. But they did include it. They just weren't allowed to do anything new with it. It was the old Warner's disc that they had to include in the box.
yeah, got you. Okay, cool. So thanks for watching, everybody. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram all the
All
damn
the damn
time. Please
time.
subscribe if you haven't already, and click on that notification bell to get alert of all of our content as a post. And please do hit the like button before you leave. I want to thank everybody for your positive response to the little bonus mini episodes that we've been doing on just new 4K releases and films in general. So we're going to continue to do that. I've got the candle back once again, so we have another one that hopefully you just watched yesterday, where I brought the candle back out. So that's kind of a little bit of nostalgia here. It's been a long time since I brought the candle back on and dimmed the lights a little bit. That was kind of fun. So tune in next month again. Alien invasion stuff happening next month. So we're going to go a little sci-fi on you guys next month, and we'll see you then. For David Gallagher, I am Pete Pardo. Enjoy your weekend. Thanks for watching Lobster's Den. Take care, everybody.
Dun,
Bye.
dun, 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 dun.